Hello, this is Michael Hexter. Welcome to my Politics 2100 video cast here on YouTube. So this is a follow-up to a video I just did, and I'm going to upload, or I've already uploaded, and I'm going to add to that video because I feel like I emphasized one side of white narcissism rather than the other. So anyway, so this I'm calling white narcissism, grandiosity, and the right-wing sense of entitlement to rule. So in this video, it's a bookend to the other video, which I believe will be episode 20. This is episode 21, and I felt like when I was reviewing that I emphasized too much the vulnerable side of narcissism, and while that's important, that doesn't fully capture what I was commenting on, the particular events, the sense of the willingness to putsch by the right wing, the willingness to do coups, to break rules, to amass power. And that is something that I've observed over several decades, or at least that there's a greater propensity on the right wing to assume an entitlement to rule. And that starts with, but a good example of that is, for instance, the Bush campaign essentially creating a putsch in Florida to change the outcome of the vote, the Florida vote, through a sense of entitlement that the Democrats then reinforced, or that the Gore campaign reinforced by conceding prior to really having all the votes counted. And so this is an entitlement that springs from within, but then there are also social reinforcements for it that include the Democratic Party and the media, which I've hinted at or talked about in a number of episodes. So anyway, so this is a key other side to narcissism. So narcissism, I'm not saying all narcissism is about political power. By no stretch of the imagination is that true, or all, let's say, pathological narcissism or unbalanced narcissism. But the right wing is obviously believes itself to be entitled to privileges, these lost privileges, the sense of have things that have been lost, or also just new privileges that they simply say that they're entitled to. They want them, and I'm not. Now, overall, obviously, people people in general need to demand things from government that they need and that they want, and that they need to. That's part of democracy. That's part of we are entitled to rights in our society. We are entitled to a voice, to being able to speak, but then there is excessive entitlement. There's a sense of that you can shut out other people and their demands by simply asserting your own, and by expecting that you will be treated with deference, and your demands will be treated with deference relative to those of others. And so that's the sense of entitlement that I'm talking about as a psychological characteristic, as an excessive narcissistic entitlement. And so it's pretty obvious that, from at least my view of how the politics have worked over the last couple decades, at least, is that the right wing has acted as though it's entitled, and not only a couple decades, many decades, that it has a priority access to power, to the power of the government, even as it claims that it's on the outside and persecuted. At the same time, it acts as though it can take from government and take from the political process exactly what it wants. And unfortunately, it's being reinforced by Democrats. So, and by their opposition, who don't act as though they have an equal entitlement to, or their for their constituents or for their voters to assume power and use the levers of government for the benefit of their constituency. And so it's an unbalanced system politically. So anyway, so this entitlement also leads to a propensity to violence because there's a sense, for instance, that Lauren Boebert or something feels entitled to take a gun and have the power of life and death over her fellow Congresspeople onto the floor of Congress. And this is a, it's just an extreme level of entitlement that she justifies to herself by saying, well, she is a persecuted, her Second Amendment rights are always under attack, and so therefore she's asserting them by going on the floor of the Congress with a gun and erasing the fact that gives her, in actual fact, power of life and death over anyone she chooses to pull out her gun and try to shoot. So, and that is something that's lost on her because she's so wrapped up in her sense of persecution, a sense of I called it vulnerability in the last video, but persecution is another way to think about that. So anyway, so this is a shorter video that's just a bookend to the first video about white narcissism, and I wanted to emphasize that there is this grandiosity is almost is very visible and very obvious, even as it's hidden from some of the people who claim persecution, who feel persecuted or feel like they are under attack, for instance, because they, whatever, the big government wants to take away their, or their right not to be vaccinated, okay? So not thinking that in reality, if they are entitled not to be vaccinated and to go out in public and just interact with people without a mask, without vaccination, they have not quite the power in life and death over other people, but they are claiming that they can endanger other people with no consequence. And so they really are acting out an extreme sense of narcissistic grandiosity, okay? And so I'm using these words because this overinflated self, it needs to be, is anathema to itself, okay, but are anathema to democracy, to a democratic system. You can't have people who pretend as though they have the right of royalty, of nobility, of aristocracy over other people, as if they're their property, or not exactly their property, but they can usurp the rights of others by asserting their own right to quote unquote freedom. And so anyway, so this is where the mask and anti-mask and anti-vax campaigns, which again, they're claiming victimhood, but they're really asking for a priority right to hurt other people, just as the gun lobby is asking for a priority right to hurt other people, to have the ability to easily hurt other people, to have the power, have the potential. And they'll claim that, of course, no, they're good guys, but they will always have the potential, and therefore a power differential is with someone who's unarmed or is unwilling, even if they're armed, unwilling to engage in a quick draw challenge with the other person, and they're not as ruthless as the other person. So that's the same sort of inflated self that's the opposite, the other side of narcissism, the combination of the vulnerable self, the diminished vulnerable self, the sensitive self, with this grandiose some people call it false self, the false inflated self. So we have I'll go into this in other videos, we have in the United States a culture of encouraging this inflated, grandiose self in the public sphere. And so, and it's usually associated with people who are white. It doesn't have to be. There can be people of other colors or other skin tones or whatever, who enact that same narcissistic, inflated self. And in some sense, that is the public persona that is almost considered to be, a sine qua non, being a politician in the United States, certainly on the right wing, and also there's some versions in the center that are similarly flavored this way. So again, just an update of the previous video, and anyway, I look forward to your comments, and any if you like this video, please like, and also please subscribe to my channel if you're interested in this type of video and you'd like to see more. Thanks a lot, and hope to see you soon.